up, everybody? Welcome to the 29th episode of the Burress Law Life Friends podcast. We have been on dry dock for a little bit, but we are back with a vengeance. And today I have my special guest and law partner, Brian Mincher, with me. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic, but don't you worry, I will get better.
I love it. Well, you and I are still sort of on our victory tour.
Yes, the grassroots movement that is supporting the eventual tide that is going to carry Whiskey Dreamers to inevitable glory and fame. It's up and going, and it's ironically the demand for Whiskey Dreamers is stronger than the ability for Whiskey Dreamers to actually produce for that demand.
And Whiskey Dreamers, by what we mean by that, neither one of us particularly like whiskey, but that is our house band name given to us by an attorney in our office. But we are the Whiskey Dreamers. And boy, did we have a big gig that we were leading up to, and it happened on September 30th, 2023 at the law firm's 12th annual picnic. But, I mean, we had some dry runs, some test runs before we got there.
We did. I think we had at least 3 public performances. I think our best public performance and biggest showing was actually the backyard concert series we did here. Although the radio show we did at the Guitars and Growlers, I don't know, there might have been more people there. It's neck and neck. Although I'm proud of the radio show that we did down at Frisco Music Center, which I'm pretty sure is the highest rated show that they've had, at least in the last 6 months. Last time I checked. Not that I check every week daily.
Yeah. Now we kept watching the numbers climb on the views of the Whiskey Dreamers as we took over. We did a takeover of the Frisco Music store, and that was a lot of fun.
That was a blast.
But yeah, it's been fun. I thought we did well, and then we lead up, and what was also cool is we turned the firm's Sprinter van into our tour bus, which I thought that was cool.
That was extremely cool, and it was very needed on a very hot day. We had the AC running, the diesel engine was keeping us cool, and it was nice to have a chance to get out there and rehearse before we got up on stage, which turned out to be kind of necessary. Can we tell a story?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, and if you've been following this podcast for a while, you do know we are trial lawyers. We are not by nature afraid of public speaking. We're some of the very odd folks that actually enjoy public speaking. So neither one of us are really susceptible to stage fright in the sense of what most folks would think of as stage fright. But if you have never had a little bit of panic before going out and singing a song, playing music, and especially playing music while singing a song, it's a whole other level of terror for anybody who's done one or the other, but not both. And before we go out, and we had so many, I don't know how many sessions we had, but many, many sessions, and probably the last 6, 8, 10 in a row, we had 80 to 90% perfection on our songs. Very rarely did we even repeat one. And then about 30 minutes before we go on, all right, let's run through them one more time. Panic, blank look, the likes of which I've never seen. And Jason's just like, I've blanked on the words. It's like, okay, that's fine. Not a problem. And I don't know. Do you want to tell the story about how many iterations we went through before we gave up and decided to just roll with it? Because it was an interesting 20 minutes there.
Yeah, it was one of those things. So we're in the tour bus and we're going over it. And the first song, I just knew, look, we need to hit the first song. We've never played to that many people. Obviously we've got hundreds of people there. And by there, it was in Adriatica Village, outside of our new headquarters. And we've got a lot of good bands there that we're playing. We've got the 4-time Grammy nominated Yarn there. We've got John Christopher Davis, Austin Cunningham, big singer-songwriter, Songbird Jones, Maley Thomas Band. We've got all these bands, and we got us, and we're in the middle. And so I just knew, I'm like, we've got to hit the first song we got to hit it. And that was Bob Seger's song, Turn the Page. And we get out there, and I mean, I have played this thing, and I would kind of pride myself on, I don't really get nervous. I'm ready to go. I feel good about it. And I love to perform. And in anything.
And we had nailed that song easily the last dozen times we had gone after it.
So it wasn't a deal at all about getting nervous or anxious or anything. I think more than anything, it had to do with getting a terrible night's sleep the night before. Not really having the necessary rest.
Yeah.
Because the picnic is always a labor-intensive thing. It's a lot of work. So anyway, we start running through it, and I keep missing a line, and it's not the same line every time. It's different places. And so I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll just go print the words to that song, and I will tape them on top of my guitar. I will look down, and then we will, I won't have a problem.
And it seemed like a brilliant plan because we had a printer and we could print it up as small or as big as we needed to. I thought it was fantastic. I was like, knock that out.
So I have to type it up because I could never do a straight copy and paste. It didn't look weird. So I type it up. It takes me 10 minutes. Put it there, take it, bring it back, get on the tour bus. I've got my tape, and I tape it on there, and it's perfect. Looks great. I even had scissors and all this, and I've got it right on top of my guitar. And we start, and I'm like, okay, I do need it. And I look down, and I can see it, but I can't read it. Because, and I've always had 2015 vision my whole life, but it turns out, and I still have 2015 vision, but I can't see well up close anymore. Like, first thing I noticed, Brian, was prescription bottles.
Yep.
And it happened about 9-10 months ago. And I have to get my phone. I have to turn the light on. I have to shine it. Then I have to do this thing right here. I don't know. So after turning 50, I can't see it anymore. And so it didn't matter. I went and reprinted it bigger, taped it. It still didn't matter. The angle of looking down and trying to, it didn't work. And so I remember having some choice words and saying, you know what, we're going to go out and do it. That's all we're going to do.
And it was somewhat reminiscent of that infamous meme with Bill. Oh gosh, what's his face? The political commentator, and he's just bleep it. We'll do it live. It was that sort of thing. And here's the punchline of the story, which I'm tickled to death to say. I had handwritten out all of the words to all of the songs for fear something like this might happen to me. And so I said, hey, we'll just put that between us and we'll have it there. And he says, okay, great. And he goes up there and nails it word for word. Never once looked at the words.
Never looked at it. Remembered everything. And that's what made it so fun, is because, I've just always prided myself on, no matter what we're doing, you're going to show up, you're going to play to the best of your ability. But, this is a different deal, and be like true rookies at this. And so anyway, what's funny is Brian, we took our little victory tour that weekend, and then Brian came back and started right into another training camp. Like, if I can make like a boxing analogy, he goes right into another training camp. Meanwhile, I have Conor McGregor'd myself out on this yacht in the middle of the ocean. I'm still on my victory tour, and I have played exactly one time since we finished this. But it is I have put the word out to my guitar teacher and said the return is imminent, and let me get through Thanksgiving, and then we'll get started. Because we do have some folks who want to see us.
Yeah, no, we've literally turned down gigs, which is hilarious to me. But yeah, I know you've been offered one. I've been offered two.
Paying gigs.
Yeah.
Paying gigs.
Yeah, I've turned down 2 paying gigs.
And I took a trip to the Giggle Snort Hotel where I'm like, oh God, you definitely don't want to pay us. It was that type of thing. Like, what a terrible investment. But anyway, it was great. We had a ton of fun. Not for nothing, our sound guy, our sound guy, we've hired him again, but we wanted to have our sound the way we wanted it. We wanted to run through it. He gets there a little bit late, and we don't get to run through anything.
Right.
And
less than ideal for anyone who's ever been on stage without monitors or on stage and not be. just imagine not being able to hear yourself play or sing, but everyone around you can hear it. That's the challenge that we were forced into.
Yeah, and for a couple of semi-talented guys, we sure are very particular about our guitars, our sound, our scene.
Well, my take on that is when you only have a limited number of plays, you've got to run them very, very well.
That's right.
And so we don't have a whole lot. If we're running the wishbone, we have to run the wishbone properly. Otherwise, there's just no chance. And so that's kind of my take on it.
Well, anyway, I was super excited. We get through the whole set. We don't make any meaningful mistakes, and then I'll be dadgum if the sound doesn't blow out of your guitar.
Yep. Literally,
I think we're on the last song.
It was right in the middle of the very last song, and I don't know. It's one of the crowd favorites, that we do. I mean, really, the first and last song are the ones that everybody talks about, and so, start and end well as our general philosophy. And we're halfway through the last song, having a great time, and the sound guy bites us squarely in the keister, and it's kadoon, 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 nothing.
Yeah. And it's like that Southwest commercial from a few years ago. Want to get away? That's what it felt like.
And we're just standing there looking at each other, and I'm holding a hunk of wood that's making no noise anymore after it had been making noise largely in tune the whole time and in key, and then just nothing. And we couldn't figure out what the deal was in the, I don't know, half a second that you have whenever the sound stops before you have to bail on the song. And
it's not like the sound guy dove on stage and said, "Let me go figure this out in 10 seconds." I mean, we didn't hear a peep out of him.
No. I think he was vaping behind the stage or something.
It was let's talk about the numbers, a very successful picnic. Thanks to the generous support of our sponsors, our donors, our family, our friends. Then the law firm did what it always does, which is it underwrote the entire picnic, every expense, and there were lots of expenses. It underwrote those, and then it made a 50% matching gift to the total. And all of the contributions matching and so forth, the picnic raised a very impressive $74,399.40.
Fantastic.
So we donated that. It's going to make a big difference in our community. And our new total, it's been a very impressive 12 years of picnics. We've donated $402,732 to local nonprofits. And I'll bet you 3/4 of that is over the last 4 or 5 years. Like it's really ramped up.
Yeah, it's been very strong.
So
that's wonderful.
I always go into it thinking, are we going to do another picnic? Will this be the end? This was the 12th. And it's like if you ever go way back down, then and we're dealing with big numbers now. So it's like, are we going to be able to do it?
Right.
It didn't take me long to come out of this, and I was like, no, we're definitely doing number 13. Lucky number 13.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what's next. Everybody's interested in what we do musically this time. I've gotten more feedback. What are your thoughts?
I'm interested in what kind of future acts that we're going to be putting together, both internally and externally. I tell you what, after that, we had a very unique experience. We were easily the least talented and the least experienced bunch out of the entire lineup, and I guarantee you the most souls heard our music of any bands all day. And for those who were not there, and that's everyone who's not sitting at this table, we got to go party like rock stars after we got to party like rock stars on the stage, and we went to dinner with the headliners. And if y'all are not fans of Yarn, become fans of Yarn. They're fantastic. We got to go to dinner with them at one of our favorite restaurants. I'd like to get some more bands like them and Songbird. I like Songbird Jones he's cool. The band, the guys from the band are cool, and I really like the music. I'm a big singer-songwriter fan, a big fan of Texas music. have you heard any rumors running around the mill of who we might be able to lock down?
I have. Red Clay Strays has bubbled to the surface.
Okay.
A lot of people know who they are. A lot of people don't know, but like the one common theme I hear is you better get them now. You better see them now, because soon enough they're going to be playing these big stadiums. And so I heard their name bubbled up about getting them for the picnic, and then I kind of heard their price, and I was like, you know what? If it is a charity picnic, and so you got to kind of understand that, and you got to have a buy-in, and you can't just like gouge us. And so we'll see what shakes out.
Okay.
Ray Wiley Hubbard.
Oh,
that name has come up. Gosh, any others? Those are probably the biggest ones that I've heard.
Okay.
We had also talked about doing like a singer-songwriter deal at the next picnic, which I still think is on the table. And then you could have like a house band for we've got this venue in our new headquarters where, I mean, the firm leans music. We're big into music. We like to support local music. We think it's important. And, for somebody who's going to be playing like a sort of a house band, we talked about having some sort of contest where everybody would have a little, trinket to put into their favorite. I still think that's a really cool idea.
Oh, I do too. And there's so much talent in this area. The idea of a house band, or even a quarterly, like maybe by season, house bands over time. I think that idea has got a lot of legs. And there's a lot of folks that Jason and I know personally from, kind of dipping our toes into the local music scene, that I think would be very interested and interesting to see compete for that spot. I think it would be. There's a couple of local bands that I go and see, like Wood Nickel's somebody that I would love to have take a run at that. They do blues, they do southern rock, like all the stuff that I like to listen to and that I like to play and that we like to sing is the stuff that they kind of specialize in. So they're right up my alley. And there's a surprising amount of folks around here that it's like, wow, you're better than anything I've heard on the radio today. And here we are sitting in this little pub in McKinney.
Yeah, and that's what I like. It's super important. I mean, like, I don't really like to go stare at paintings. That's art.
Yeah.
To me, the art that speaks to me is music. And I feel like it is my job to help support local live music.
Yes,
and
for sure.
Even though Yarn, great reputation, their reputation really was on the East Coast. Even though they were being played by our radio station. And we could have gotten a bigger local name, but like, I wanted to bring the best music in. And I thought and still think that we brought in a heck of a band.
Oh, for sure. They're fantastic.
We could talk about maybe we should have brought them in and started them earlier because it was such a long picnic. But I think we do the next picnic like fewer hours, even though it turned out great. It was absolutely great. I love the fact that this year was 6 hours, but I just think next year we do a much shorter one.
Yeah.
And, I think we just think and see which name bubbles up, and we'll go get them, and I think it'll be fun.
I think it'd be great. Hey, talk to me about the foundation. You guys got anything shaking over there?
Yeah, so Burress Family Foundation, the biggest change that I can think of, there's a lot of news, but the biggest change is we're having a name change. And I take full responsibility for naming Burress Family Foundation. But what I noticed is sometimes every now and then I would have a question about, well, wait a minute, so is this going to your family? And I was like, no, there's like the Jones Family Foundation. But you only have to get like 3 questions, and then you're like, wait a minute, somebody out there thinks that this is going to my family? No. And I just said, and so then Dreyer comes in, and Wendy Mays, his wife, and I used to work with her, and she's just got the best judgment, and super sweet, really think a lot of her. And she's done a whole bunch of charity work. And so Dreyer comes in one day, and we're talking about it. He said, Wendy said that you should have named this Burress Community Foundation, not Burress Family Foundation. And I was like, that. And so I was like, ding, ding. So it doesn't have to be my idea. Like I hear this idea and I was like, that's a great idea.
Brilliant.
And so I ran it by 2, 3, 4 people. Everybody said, yeah, no, that's perfect. Fits with the mission. There's no confusion. And so super, super simple. That's the first thing. So I know that we're in the process of getting the logo updated, but I think all that stuff, you'll start seeing it soon. Second thing is we just filed our tax return. And so as I stated before we ever got started, you are welcome. Anybody who has donated, who is thinking about donating, you're invited to call and schedule a review of our tax return. We'll show you the tax return. And just like I promised, you'll see that nothing was paid out by the foundation other than the checks to the scholarship recipients, the checks to the 501c3 charitable organizations, and then there's a very small Stripe donor app fee. So when people make an online donation, you have to have a portal, and they take just a little bit of every donation. But you will see that the law firm made up for not only that little amount, but all the people helping. The law firm pays the salaries. The law firm pays all the administrative costs, every cost, and even and way more than that even. In its donations. And so, but that is available. Just call and you can come by and meet with our operations team and check out the tax return. I'm happy about that. And then, right now we're at 21 scholarships for $55,000. We've got our scholarship deadline ending in less than a month. And so I think sometime in late December, we're going to be awarding 7 to 8 more scholarships for spring 2024. And I can tell you that by looking at the applications, we're down from last semester, which is to be expected because you're in the middle of the year.
Sure.
But point is, if you're a friend of the firm, if you have a relationship with the law firm and you've got a kid that is already in college, tell them to go to our website, burressfamilyfoundation.org, or I think you can even get there from mytexasfirm.com and fill out that scholarship so that you can get an award.
Excellent.
So, so I'm happy. Thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So to change subjects, because we've got to pay for all of the law firms giving to the foundation, you got any good cases that you want to talk about?
Sure.
Maybe working on or finished up?
I've got one that we are in the final stages of finishing up. We're going to call him Frankie B. His last name is difficult to pronounce, and it's long. Young Frankie was 22 years old, and he is a cautionary tale at the beginning of this, but he's got a hero's journey, so stick around. You'll enjoy the ending. So he is driving along, cautionary tale warning, on a motorcycle, and you should probably know the story doesn't end well if it begins with a motorcycle. And he is out in the country because he is a amateur entomologist. He's curious about bugs, and there's a particular kind of bug that he saw on a nature show. He wanted to go out in the countryside and see if he could find one. And so the absolute most innocent reason in the world to be out on a Sunday afternoon, driving along the countryside, looking for some crazy moth or butterfly or bug or whatever. And a 17-year-old pulled out in front of him, and he hit the side of that car going 50-something miles per hour. And as I was explaining to somebody, basically broke his everything that you wouldn't want to break, and smashed his everything you wouldn't want to smash into the motorcycle, and then flipped over the car and laid in the ditch with a broken ankle and a whole bunch of other stuff, broken finger and wrists, and he was a mess, just like you'd expect. And when we met him, it was myself as well as the namer of Whiskey Dreamers, my associate Griffin, and one of our paralegals. We all had to go to the hospital to sign him up because he was in no shape to travel. So that was on July the 10th that happened. His brother called me that night July the 11th, we went to see him, and we've basically had to adopt him ever since. But the great news is the youngster who had pulled out in front of him actually had a fairly substantial insurance policy, one of the bigger ones that you'll see on a passenger car. And the insurance company came to the wisdom of avoiding having to, well, they didn't avoid suit. Let me strike that. We had to file suit in order to get their attention, but they came to the realization of what the nature of the problem was very quickly thereafter, and we were able to resolve it. So this was July 19th. Today is what, November? Yeah, so November 21st. So 4 or 5 months. That's a pretty quick turnaround for a case of this magnitude.
And it
Pretty
doesn't
tickled with
sound
that.
like it, but it really is in our business because, you've got the treatment, you've got the time from the incident to retaining us.
Yep.
You've got the demand phase and then the, settlement phase. And then if you have to litigate, so things can take some time because treatment can take some time. That's a fantastic result and very fortuitous that you were able to wrap it up so quick.
Yeah, I fully expected this was going to be a really long fight. The higher the stakes, the longer and harder the fight often is. And so I was very tickled that we were able to get turned around for Frank. And I expect we're going to be able to get him a check of that size right there that he does not have to pay taxes on.
That looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, pretty substantial amount, especially for a fellow that age. And it looks like he's not going to have a lifelong limp or any, as bad as his injuries were, he's not going to have permanent injuries of the type that would be crippling or anything. So that's. Fortunately, he doesn't have a multi-million-dollar case. I always tell people, don't come into the office wishing your case was better because that means you would have had to gone through a much worse thing. So,
100%.
thank goodness it's not any worse. But so he is on the mend. He's a young, healthy guy in general, but for hitting a car. So he healed up about as quickly as you would expect a young, healthy guy to heal up. And he's looking forward to getting this in his pocket and moving on down the road. And he's got some big dreams. He wants to be a fireman. And he was literally 2 Mondays away from going down to Corpus Christi to start his fireman career when this happened. So it's having to be reset. Man,
and that would be one of my top 10 things that I would tell any 16, 17-year-old. Here's the best advice. Like one of those 10 things would be please stay off motorcycles because it's not just your ability, it's everybody else, what they're doing affects you, and sometimes you can't do anything. This is a prime example. There's not one thing in the world that Frankie could have done differently. He wasn't driving crazy. He wasn't hot rodding. He wasn't even on a high-performance motorcycle. He was on a pretty tame sort of a motorcycle, and he was not driving in any ridiculous manner. But you can drive the speed limit and follow all the rules, and somebody pulls right up in front of you at the last second, which is what happened here, and you're in the hospital for a month. Yeah, I mean, we just have a lot of these cases where it's like our people didn't do anything wrong, and you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes I hear that a problem can just fall out of the sky on you. Yeah, we get plane crashes from time to time, and there was one that really made lots of media. It happened 10 days ago, so it may take us a few days to get this podcast up. I don't know. Maybe Lee can have this thing ready in the morning and get this thing uploaded. He's looking like he's ready to nod yes, but he hasn't quite done it. He's showing a lot of discipline. Yeah, so I'll just say that it's November 11, 2023 is when a plane comes out of the sky and hits our poor clients who are driving on Virginia Parkway, which is a very busy roadway in the city of McKinney. The pilot is coming in way too fast. He's landing at Aero Country Airport, goes through a fence and crashes into our client. In fact, I happen to have video, and I don't think you've seen that video yet. I'd like to. I've heard about it. Let me just play it for you, and you see what you think. Here we go. Oh, wow. I mean...
Wow. So, okay, so this is a handheld. This isn't. All right, that is not.
Yeah. And that plane is a very fast plane, and he just came in way too fast. But you can see it there. Our clients are the sweetest clients in the whole world. They're super sweet from Jordan, and so we've already started helping. And I just hate it, but it just goes to show you. I mean, I really do think that driving is one of the most perilous things that most all of us do.
Yep.
On a daily basis, and it's just by the numbers, it's just dangerous. But you don't expect that,
right? No, you certainly you look right and you look left at the intersection. I never think to look up. But
yeah,
maybe you do now.
The good news is everybody lived, and we'll get them taken care of. But lots of injuries to deal with. A big crash. But we've had a lot of cases. We're doing the best we can. I'm excited about our team. In fact, we just had our big potluck
we did.
Thanksgiving at the office. That was fun.
It was fantastic. We have a wonderful team full of amazing people who are really great at their job, but they're just as good of people as they are employees a lot of times, and it seems like they're just about as good of cooks as they are people.
Oh, man.
We are blessed in so many ways with our coworkers, and it seems like everyone, either themselves or their spouse or someone in their family, has a specialty, and everyone brings out their specialty dessert or their specialty appetizer or their specialty entree, and today was no exception. We had just a whole bunch of folks brought a whole bunch of really good stuff, and we've got the facilities to where we have a full kitchen that we're able to serve, and it was just fantastic. It was as good a meal as I think you could get anywhere.
But I can't wait until we have a better facility to serve, because imagine that. Imagine the day that we're able to invite, because we invite firemen, police officers over from time to time, but we don't have the seating, and so we're all standing around and this and that. Right. So it's a smaller area, but in the new headquarters, which we are just trying to finish out, I can't wait because we've got a much bigger space to host events and so forth. Yeah,
I look forward to having either police or fire over maybe every other month. Especially during the summer when it's easy to barbecue and it's fun, and those guys always have a great appetite and they always really appreciate it. And I really appreciate giving back to those guys that are out there trying to protect us and make the world a better place. Making money's great and you got to make a living. Everybody does, but if you're one of the folks that's out there that's actually making the world a better place, good for you.
100%. Well, I think before we go, we ought to talk a little bit of MMA, if you don't mind.
I would love to do that.
Some big news that broke, I think, yesterday. PFL, the Professional Fighters League.
Yes, which is it's kind of the overseas UFC. They're way bigger in Asia than they are in America.
Okay.
Understanding.
And I didn't know that. I knew one was, but I don't know a ton about PFL. I know Jake Paul is associated with them, had some sort of ownership interest, and is under contract.
Right.
But they have the what do you call it? They have a tournament.
They've got multiple different fight disciplines as well.
Okay.
So I think they not only do boxing, they have MMA and then kickboxing as well. Whereas the UFC is, when I said they're like the UFC of this area, I mean they're a bigger deal in other places than they are here. Not that they're a direct competitor to UFC. UFC doesn't really have a direct competitor. Even one, I don't think, would argue that they are a direct competitor. But PFL, yes, they acquired Bellator. What that exactly means, I don't know that anyone knows for sure. Rumor around the campfire, and by that I mean Chael Sonnen's show, said that they may be phasing out Bellator over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. So it may be that this was a talent acquisition sort of a thing, but it might be intriguing while they've got both brands. And you mentioned the tournament structure, a tournament of champions, champion versus champion. There's a lot of potential intrigue that can go forward. And who knows if that gets going, maybe you have the idea. I don't think Dana would ever do it, but maybe they could cross-pollinate with one at least. I don't think they would ever do it with UFC.
Yeah, so I missed Chael's show, but I saw Ariel's show, and Ariel had on a guy by the name of Don Davis, who's the chairman and founder of PFL, and he's pretty refreshing. Now, I don't have any angst for Dana. I like what Dana does for the most part, but Don Davis is really different. He's very transparent. There's not the obvious narrative that you have with Dana. Don Davis, pretty refreshing and different. A little more of in the Scott Coker vein, but yet a bit more transparent than him even, and with a little bigger personality.
Interesting.
And he, on Ariel's show, he said that, nope, he goes, the Bellator fighters, and I think maybe they have 210 under contract. We're taking them all.
Yep. He
said that Bellator only had like 21 employees. And he said that PFL has 52. And he said, but we want all their people to come over. We don't want any layoffs. We want them all to come over. And he said, we are going to have two separate brands. So it's almost like when the WWE bought
WCW.
Yeah, or the other one. I can't remember. When they bought one and they sort of had the two brand thing,
yeah,
I think that's what they're doing.
Okay, so like the Monday Nitro versus the Thursday. Okay, okay, interesting.
And so there's going to be a tournament series, and then there's going to be, they didn't call it a legend series, but it's kind of like for those fighters like Anthony Pettis, who is too old and his body's not set up to go through a PFL tournament, we're going to have him fight twice a year, and we'll do fun fights for him and this and that. But we hope that a lot of the Bellator fighters will lead into that tournament. And so, but yeah, definitely some different, even like for Bellator events in the future, a different set of commentators than for PFL. So it's kind of interesting the way he explained it. I'm not quite through with it, but I'm almost done with it. But this Don Davis really comes, so Dana was a jazzercise guy or boxercise guy who happened to have rich friends from high school.
Right.
This Don Davis doesn't have any fighting background. He was an old AOL executive, America Online.
Okay.
And he was an executive in that, and he's built quite a few businesses over the years and built them into very valuable franchises that have a thing to do with fighting. And so back in 2016, he, I guess, purchased PFL. He bought the PFL after the UFC sold for $4+ billion. He looked at it and he said, look, if they sold for $4+ billion and they don't have a close second, I want to go buy something and start working this, because there's a lot of money to be had in this.
Interesting.
And so he really comes at it from more of a business perspective, but super refreshing. I thought it was very interesting. And the biggest area of interest for me was his goal. And he said, we are number 2. We are number 2 to the UFC. And he said, but if you look at the talent, and there's this, I can't remember the name of it, but there's one group that ranks fighters regardless of organization. Whoever that is that does that. He said, the UFC has 30% of the top 25 fighters in every weight class in the world, 30% of them, and we have 30% of them. We're tied with them. He goes, now, if you look at top 5, UFC's got them all. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So they'll beat us there right now. And he said, but right now we're number 2, and we are on a mission to become co-leaders in the mixed martial arts space. I thought that was interesting.
That's very interesting.
I mean, that's a cool stated goal.
And it is a brash goal. That's huge.
And he had big dreams on getting deals with media giants to help carry the brands and distribute it. And obviously he has a lot of goals on foreign distribution. And, I think the UFC does about, I don't know, maybe they do about 40 events a year. And I think they are set next year to do maybe 30 or 32. Most of their stuff is not pay-per-view. I think they only have 2 pay-per-views. So pretty interesting. I don't know much about it, but I think that for the fighters, that has to be a very good thing.
They seem to treat their fighters pretty well.
Nobody leaves.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody leaves from PFL and goes to UFC.
No, but everybody that goes from UFC is hoping they go there to the PFL and not to the bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah.
I would, which I don't blame them. That bare knuckle boxing is pretty rough. That
is pretty rough. We've got I know we've got Eddie Alvarez fighting Mike Perry soon.
Yeah. Mike, I don't think there's a whole lot of people that could make the same weight that he can that would be a favorite over Mike Perry in bare knuckle boxing. He seems to be made for bare knuckle boxing.
Mike Perry wasn't real good at MMA, but he's pretty good at bare knuckle boxing.
He beat the crap out of Luke Rocco.
Oh, he did. He knocked his teeth out. Teeth flying everywhere.
Yeah, he really messed him up.
I mean, so much so that Luke quit.
Yeah.
Like, Luke never quits anything.
Right. No.
Hey, I got one for you. I got a great rumor for you.
All right.
Brendan Schaub says, if you look at GSP's social media, after he retired, it went straight down. He didn't do much, yada, yada, yada. And if you look at the last 2-3 months, it has ramped back up in a big way. He was getting ready to compete, I think against Damian Maia or something.
In a grappling contest.
And I think his opponent pulled out. Maia pulled out.
Okay.
So he has no opponent, so now he's going to commentate. And he said, GSP is coming back for UFC 300. And he's going to fight one of the Diaz's.
That would be, that's very
checking
interesting.
in or checking out on that one?
Oh, I'm in. Oh, I'm 100%.
GSP's got to be 42 ish.
But he's as hard as this table. And he hadn't taken any damage in years. I'm more interested in GSP at 42 than I am Stipe at 42.
Yeah, I mean, GSP was having problems with the bigger Bisping. I mean, he was getting a little bit tuned up, and I know we had Bisping down.
Well, that's not his weight class either.
No.
But he spent his whole career at 155 and then does.
And GSP was, Bisping was like 185.
Yeah.
So, no, GSP spent his career at 170. He was the welterweight champion.
That's right. He went up to 185 for Bisping.
Yeah, Bisping was good size.
And Bisping has to cut to make 85.
Yep, and GSP, let's not forget, choked him unconscious. So when you look at all that and you say, okay, a few years have gone by, and I like him not coming back against a killer. I mean, I like him. I did not like Nick Diaz's last performance. Right. But I think him versus Nick or him versus Nate either one of those.
I think he's a favorite against either one of them.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So I think that GSP would be a favorite against Nate or Nick Diaz. But you're getting my money.
Oh yeah. We're watching it for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in. I'm totally in on that.
Yeah, I am too. And I think I'm out on this podcast because we've run out of time. All right. With that graceful dismount. Okay. All right. Well, we're doing it from home because our building's not finished yet, and it's all my wife's fault. George. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Burress Law Life Friends podcast. Enjoyed it, buddy.
Always.